All right, before we get started on the installation here, I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys what tools are needed in order to do this modification. So starting off, we've got a ratchet here. I've also got a little extension on it, just in case we need it. I've got an 8mm socket, 10mm socket, and then a T25. In addition, you're also going to need a flathead screwdriver as well as a Phillips. And I've also got a utility knife here just in case we need it. We might need some zip ties, and I've got some electrical tape here as well. I also wanted to show you guys a close-up of what the existing pre-LCI taillights look like. First step, open the trunk. Next, what you want to do is remove the trunk release right here. So if you pull down on it, it'll come free like this. And then stick your hand back here and kind of push it forward in order to get the little tab out there. The next step is to remove these two T25 bolts. Next, you want to get your Phillips head screwdriver, and you're going to remove these 4 on top and these 2 here. Just gotta be a little bit careful because these are plastic screws and they don't fully come out. So once you get it out a little part of the way, you can just grab it with your fingers or a pair of pliers and pull it out. And so if you can see that, it's kind of a Phillips head top that screws in, and once it screws in, it expands the clip. So gotta remove all 6 of those. Additionally, there are 2 more on the underside here. 1 here and 1 there. So there's 8 total. All right, now that you've got those 8 Phillips screws out, we need to remove these 2 plastic coverings on each side before we can actually take this carpet out. So what you need to do, there's a couple little tabs here that you need to squeeze until it pops. And these flaps kind of open up. So same thing on the passenger side, squeeze here and here until it pops. These tabs will swing open, and then pull out just like that. As you can see, the top part of this tab goes up inside the carpet here, and the rest of it is just kind of compression fitted. If you happen to mix the 2 up, there's actually labels on here. It says RH, so that's right hand. And then the other one says LH for left hand. Right, now finally we can remove the carpet from the top of the trunk here. What I would recommend doing is grabbing it from both sides like this and pulling it down. Now this is the other side, and then you just gotta pull it on top, just like that. All right, so real quick, just wanted to show you guys what the current pre-LCI taillights look like. Again, these have halogen bulbs in them, and so the new ones are all going to be LEDs. And I'm also going to show you guys a comparison later on of what these look like versus the new ones. Okay, whenever doing anything with electrical stuff, it's always a safe idea to remove the negative terminal of the battery. So, unscrew this, pull this back, this pops out. Got my 10mm socket here. So we're going to start removing this outer taillight first, but first we're going to remove this drip rail here. So if you take your flathead screwdriver and put it in here and turn it, just to get it going a little bit, and then you can pry it up. It comes right out. It's kind of a compression screw. And then grab the drip rail, pull up on it, it comes out. So there's 2 little prongs here on the bottom that fit in these 2 designated holes, and it slides right in, and it's held on just by that 1 compression screw. Now is also a good time to clean up all of this. So, got some waterless wash, microfiber towel, just gonna wipe all that dirt away. All right, I've got that cleaned up a little bit. Next up, we're gonna take these two 10mm nuts off. Now that we've got those 2 screws off, the only thing that's holding this on now is a compression clip back here. And so really you just need to put your hand on it, kind of give it a nice tug, just like that. And then pull this wire back and unplug. It's just a Molex plug. Just like that, comes right out. Taillight's out. So here's the back end of the taillight here. So this has got a little nub on it basically, and a compression fits right into this hole, and that's the only thing that holds the backside on. Here's a nice side-by-side comparison of the pre-LCI OEM light on the bottom and the new LCI Blackline on the top. All right, it's pretty dirty back here behind the taillight, so I sprayed it with some waterless wash. Gonna clean this off of here. We also want to clean in this area here just because the new taillight has a couple little modules that we need to mount, and so we want to have good adhesion and on a clean surface. So cleaning this area here, it's gonna be double-sided taped down here and here. So we want to make sure that's all nice and clean, ready to go. We're gonna take the big one first. So we've got a couple different wires here. This one plugs into the factory harness here. So we can go ahead and do that. It only goes on one way. Okay, so we're gonna start mounting this large one first. Fortunately, they gave us some double-sided tape already on the back side. So pull the backing off of here, just like that. And then we'll tuck this one down here in the bottom as far as we can go, up or down and out of the way. And then once you get in place, you just want to hold it there for about 15 to 30 seconds. And we're going to mount this one. Let's see here. Get these wires out of the way. Mount this one right here. Hold it down for 15 to 30 seconds. And then finally, we can reattach this wire here onto this little mounting clip, just to hold the wire. And then we're gonna tuck this also out of the way. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna line everything up. Get your holes here lined up. And the one back here, compression clip. Push into place. Just like so. Now that we've got that in place, we can reinstall our 10mm nuts here. I'm gonna kind of do them simultaneously. I'm not gonna tighten that one all the way down yet. I'm gonna do this one on top. They don't have to be super snug or anything, just because it is metal going into plastic, and so you don't want to crack any of the tabs here. But that's all secure, everything's wired up. This one should be good to go. Also, don't forget to reinstall the drip rail. So again, there are two little nubs on here on the bottom that slide into these two holes here. And then we've got our little compression clip that we need to push back in. And it's good to go. So one thing to note here, since we're going from a pre-LCI light to an LCI light, the LCI shape is a little bit different and kind of bubbles out here a little bit more. And so I've read online that there have been some issues with people with these drip rails. And so as you can see, there's kind of a gap between this drip rail and the actual light. And so people were complaining that water was gonna get behind there and all that. But the solution to that would be to buy some LCI drip rails. I'm gonna leave these on here for now and see how it goes, and if we need to replace them with LCI drip rails, I can purchase those online from any, from ECS Tuning or any BMW parts store online. They're not very expensive. I wanna say they're like $20 a piece maybe. And if you need those, I will put those in the part numbers in the description below, just in case you wanna go that route. Also, just for reference, this is the driver's side drip rail, so you can see that there is no gap between the drip rail and the light. meets up nice and flush. All right, next up, we're gonna start on the inner tail light here on the passenger side. So first thing you wanna do is remove the plug here, push in the bottom here and pull it out. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is get your 10mm socket, and you're gonna go ahead and unscrew this nut. So you don't need to unscrew this one all the way either. What you need to do is loosen it enough that this yellow piece of plastic here is no longer compressing against the metal in the trunk. So the next part here is going to be a little bit tricky. You need to kind of push the taillight up and out at the same time. So push up and slide at the same time. There we go. Just like that. Pull it on out. So basically on this side here, on the outside of the trunk here, there's a small tab. This kind of fits right into this little cutout in the trunk here. So that's why you need to slide it this direction. The only other side that's holding this part of the taillight is this yellow plastic piece. And so when we unscrewed it, it decompressed the plastic against the metal. So you just kind of have to finagle it out, push up and out kind of at the same time. Okay, real quick here. Here's a comparison of the OEM pre-LCI taillight. And here's the new Blackline taillight. So as you can see, the reverse is down here. The reverse light is down here on the bottom versus the top on the OEM. This is a halogen bulb, and this is a new USR LED bulb. So we're going to show you the comparison of the light output between those two. In addition, the LCI taillight, this Blackline has a turn signal right here. So this top part is a turn signal indicator, which the OEM does not have. So I'm also going to show you guys how to wire that in. Just like the outer tail light, the inner tail light also has an additional wiring harness. This one here from USR actually has some labels on it that indicate what side it is, just in case you happen to mix up the two harnesses, because they are packaged separately. It's not actually connected to the housing in the box. So if you look at here, it'll tell you, it'll have a letter R on the box here, as well as the wiring harness here, whereas the other side has an L. So this is going to be for the right side. So basically what we're going to do is reverse the order here. I'm going to leave this out for now. So we'll put that aside, and then we're going to put this new taillight back in. Same kind of design here. It's going to be exactly the same. So we're going to loosen this bolt all the way, make sure it's all the way loosened first, to release the tension on this yellow piece. And then same thing, we've got this little notch here that will go into this part of the trunk, and we'll slide it in. So same idea, put it in and then slide at the same time. Carefully tuck that into place there. Okay, so once you got that back into place, that was kind of probably the hardest part, was to remove this without breaking anything, and then putting this one back in. So, but don't be too afraid. Next step is to retighten this part. So for whatever reason, the DEPO uses a 8mm nut here instead of a 10. So we're gonna go ahead and screw that in all the way. I would also recommend having a deeper socket 8mm here, just because the screw is pretty long. I just wanna make sure this is in all the way. So you don't have to go super snug. It's nice and tight, not going anywhere. Next up, you want to take your new wiring harness here, unravel it, and then you're going to want to plug this larger one in here. It only goes in one direction. Make sure it snaps into place, and then the new wiring harness on this end will attach to the OEM one here. That as well only goes in one direction, will snap into place. Just like the outer tail light, we've got these modules that we also need to mount, and so we'll take this big one here and we're going to put it up in this spot, in this large hole. Anywhere up there is fine, as long as it's a relatively flat surface. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put this one up here. Same thing, push down firmly for about 15 to 30 seconds. Okay, now we're gonna mount the second box here. And there's a little hole here that we're gonna mount this right onto. Hold it there for 15 to 30 seconds. I went ahead and tucked up all of the wires up here, up out of the way, just so it's a little bit cleaner. You can use some electrical tape here if you want to secure it a little bit nicer. You also notice that we've got this additional wire here. I'm going to show you guys what this is in a little bit, but we're going to move on to the driver's side and replace those two lights first. Wow guys, look at the comparison here. Pre-LCI on the left side, the new LCI Blacklines on the right side. I think that looks awesome. What do you guys think? Here's another view of the new LCI Blacklines. Again, I think this kind of makes it more of like a European look versus all the red, ugly red pre-LCI with halogens versus the new LCI with LEDs. Pretty sick. One other cool thing I want to point out about these new LCI lights is that the shape's a little bit different. So you can see it kind of bubbles out here a little bit. It kind of flows a little bit better rather than being completely flat and straight across. This kind of gives it a little bit more dimension. You can see it kind of curves out and bubbles out on this section here throughout the entire light. I think that's a nice little design. All right, let's see it with the lights on. Oh wow. The LED looks so much nicer. It looks way better in person. You can see how like this section here is a little bit more dim. It's brighter over here and dimmer in this area and then brighter over here again versus the LED side. This is really congruent, nice and full light all the way through the entire beam there. I love that. I'm also going to do a comparison here of the reverse lights. So again, these are all halogen in here and those are all LED. This one actually does not normally come with the LED bulb in the reverse light, but USR has replaced this with an LED. So I want to see the comparison between this and this. Reverse. Park. Also, one thing to note, the turn signal here on the new one is amber versus red on the old one. And you can tell that's a halogen bulb versus this one, which is an LED, very on-off. Passenger side is done for the most part. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the driver's side. I'm not gonna film that part just because it's the exact same process as the passenger side. So I'll come back to you guys again when it's time to do something with this wire. Real quick, if the DEPO lights that you purchase do not have that LED reverse light like this one does, I can show you guys how to replace that. I'll also put a link in the description below of the actual bulb that you can purchase from USR. Pretty simple to remove. All you need to do once you get the tail light out is grab it and pull it straight out, just like that. And I like to use some gloves. I don't want to get my fingerprints all over the bulbs here, so once you pull this out, all you need to do is twist it and it'll come right out. So that's how you replace that. Putting it back in. Once you twist the new bulb back in, put it in like that. Push in all the way, and that's it. All right guys, so I've got the driver's side on, both taillights there. So now what I'm gonna show you is what we need to do with these two wires. So there's one on each side. The cool thing about the LCI taillights is this section here on the top of the inner taillight on both sides is actually a turn signal. And so what we need to do is wire those to flash with these as well. So that's what these additional wires are for. So basically what we need to do is run it down here on both sides. This one's gonna run across over here actually, this one, and then they're gonna both run down here through towards the battery terminal area, and we're gonna splice some wires.